Roger, your book is now on pre-sale, about to be shipping at InfoWarsStore.com. We're going to talk about that some, but I'm going to skip this break too. It's historic. But I'm beside myself. It's how good we are and how bad they are. I've never been like that. And I'm not saying that in an elitist way. I felt bad for how ignorant and hateful, and having hundreds of women scream, "You're an effing white male," spitting in my face, being totally racist against white people. They were white themselves, not seeing the irony of how Martin Luther King said the opposite. I mean, I just don't understand how good this could all be when you're informed versus these people. I mean, my optimism has never been anywhere near this. But I also fear when Madonna is openly allowed to say, "We need to blow up the White House, let's do it," to probably 1 million women. I mean, and then saying that he took the bust of Martin Luther King out, knowing they've got low information listeners who only listen to them, they still think he took it out now. It doesn't matter. So it's seeing them triple down on the lies. I don't even know what to say at this point, Rogers.
Well, Alex, first of all, a very big victory only moments ago for President Trump and his new administration when my friend, Senator Marco Rubio, announced that he would vote to confirm Rex Tillerson as the Secretary of State. Now, Senator Rubio had an opportunity to express his concerns about the appointment, but he has wisely decided to give the president his own team to try to remake our foreign policy. So this is a key vote because with Rubio and the undermining by Senator John McCain and his mini-me from South Carolina, we probably would have been short of the 50 votes, meaning that the Trump administration would have to deal with the Democrats to ensure the confirmation of Rex Tillerson. I think Tillerson's a brilliant outside-the-box choice. He's a practical businessman who, like Donald Trump, wants to get something done. He's a tough negotiator. We need some tough negotiations with Vladimir Putin and the Russians so that we might have peace. Peace is the objective. This isn't about how you get along with Putin. It's about peace. And what you're seeing, both in the demonstrations, Alex, and in the constant campaign to undermine Trump, is that the deep state just cannot accept his election. They won't stop trying to undermine him.
And how does that not certify him with the so-called left that claims they're anti-establishment when the entire establishment is in its death throes throwing everything they've got at Trump?
Now, there is some dichotomy, in my view, between the violent demonstrations that took place during the inauguration and some aspects of the Women's March. My own granddaughter caught a Coke bottle in the ankle when there was a rain of bottles and rocks and eggs when we were attempting to enter the deplorable. I myself saw protesters smashing the ATM machines, smashing the windows of banks. I was apprised of a situation.
They attacked Larry King.
They attacked Larry King. My own 27-year-old granddaughter decked a protester, literally knocked him cold when he pushed her off the sidewalk into some dirt and called her a Nazi bitch. So, the question one has to ask is, what was the D.C. Metropolitan Police doing? I understand people have a right to free speech.
Oh, let me tell you, they wore the George Soros, quote, pussy hats. I'm sorry, folks, that's the name of it. The pink hats, Soros funded it. They wore the hats. The police admitted to us they were ordered to stand down because Obama was the commander-in-chief until Trump was sworn in. So the police loved it.
Well, the police clearly were ordered to stand down. My point, of course, is that people are entitled to a mass and protest. 300 people outside the deplorable, cheering, jeering, holding signs.
Sure, but not throwing batteries and urine. And look, we didn't block the Soros march of the women.
Exactly. In other words, there were people throwing rocks, people throwing bottles, people throwing baggies full of urine, people throwing baggies full of Clorox. People throwing eggs, a shower of eggs.
By the way, Clorox is an attempt to blind you. If that hits you in the eyes, let me say something. You throw Clorox at me, I'm going to bash your brains out. That is an assault with a deadly weapon.
Well, women in my party were spat upon on their attempt to get to the inaugural ball, a veritable rain of spit from these scumbags. Now, the Women's March, in all honesty, I think there were many, 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 many women there. And they were a bunch of them staying in my hotel. They were very nice people, and they have legitimate concerns. I think they're going to be happy in the sense that I don't think Trump is motivated by social issues. I think that he is highly sensitive to the women's health issues because of Ivanka's activities in that area. So I think there are a lot of sincere people there. They, Alex, were infected by the Soros types with their violent and nasty anti-Trump signs and their professional agitators to give the entire march a more radical bent. There were some good people there. There's some people there who don't hate Donald Trump, but they just have concerns about his views. And then there's other hardcore, Soros stooges who are looking for an incident, looking for this not becoming a symbolic march over issues, but spilling over into violence. And no, I don't care what they say. I'm not wearing one of those little pink hats.
Well, notice it's all part of Soros' color revolutions. They didn't even change the name of the revolution they funded for 8 years in Russia with pink hats, purplish pink hats, calling it the Pussy Revolution. It's the same thing. They call
That's exactly right. And look, David Brock, the thug who works for Soros, the man who even the WikiLeaks highest aides to Clinton said was batshit crazy. It's a quote. He is now out soliciting money for a new $40 million budget to smear Donald Trump. Now, this is ironic. This is a guy who evaded $1 million+ in taxes.
Well, let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. They had the IRS persecute everybody for no reason for years. MSNBC said, oh, we're auditing and harassing and arresting the Tea Party because they deserve it. They're all racist. I'm not calling for Trump to persecute people. I'm not calling for, but if they're breaking the law, the Attorney General, the IRS, you name it, and Brock and Al Sharpton, owes $5 million in taxes. If I did, I'd be under the jail. I'm tired of them being above the law. We get harassed. You've just been audited and harassed. You're following the law. They're not. I'm sick of it.
Well, it's very clear to me that you have a situation in which Soros is inciting people to violence, and he's paying them to do that. That is a federal crime. If he incites people to make threats against the president, that is a federal crime. It seems to me that Mr. Soros is entirely indictable in this country if the Hungarians don't do it first, frankly, because he is fomenting problems and revolution by violent overthrow around the globe. The real irony, of course, is that Brock and Soros, or I should say Brock and Soros' money, probably spent $300 million in this constant harangue of covering up the Clintons' deepest crimes while attacking Alex Jones and Roger Stone endlessly. Why anyone would give this loser $40 million more so that he can fail?
Well, that's my next point. Let me go over some of these articles. D.C. police wore pussy hats in support of Soros-linked protests, and most of them weren't like that, but I went to them. They said, I'm sorry. We've been ordered not to help you. Women bleeding. People trying to go to work. They said, I'm sorry. We've been ordered not to do anything. So I went and made a big scene until they were forced to do something, at least at one of the entrances. Meanwhile, German feminazis chant Allah Akbar at Islamist-backed women's march. I mean, this is crazy. In Germany, and it was here. We have footage. I couldn't believe it. They were chanting that they want Sharia law and that I'm a white male fascist. So because most of the Islamist male controllers are brown, they think going under Islam is good. I mean, this is the craziest Stockholm Syndrome, cuckold, weird-ass stuff. I mean, I couldn't believe it, Roger. In fact, saying it, I mean, it went on for hours. It was like all these signs, Allah Akbar, and the women coming up. I mean, this is the craziest crap. Like the West created freedom for women, spoils women, puts them on a pedestal, and they're bitching at us, saying, I want to be under frickin' beehive hats and be murdered if my husband wants to? What the hell? I've got stacks of articles admitting it. Sweden immigrants arrested after gang raping woman on Facebook Live. And you look at these animals. Don't these feminists, I have Gloria Steinem admitting she worked for the CIA to break up the family on film now. I didn't even know this existed. She went on 60 Minutes early in this. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. While you're talking, I'm going to be showing TV viewers some of these articles. But, I mean, the merger of the left with Islam, they really believe it's going to be the muscle that takes over for them. This is craziness.
Well, Alex, I concur with your views. At the same time, I think the president is undeterred. He is going to stick to his agenda. And I don't think he's going to be affected one way or another by these marches or by the shrill attacks of these Soros, bots that are so entirely obvious, in my opinion. I'm more concerned, frankly, with the story in the New York Times that was purposely timed for Inauguration Day that claimed that myself, Paul Manafort, the former chairman of the Trump campaign, and somebody named Carter Page, who was allegedly an advisor to Trump on Russian issues, were under investigation by the intelligence agencies, and that they had intercepted email communications and financial transactions between the Trump forces and the Russians.
Now, they said they might. They left a proviso.
Right, might. I can assure you, as I have previously, that this is bunk. There are no email transmissions between me and anyone involved with the Russians or the Russians themselves. I have no Russian clients. I have not been in communications with any Russians or anybody representing Russians.
And they know better than that, because in the 80s, they tried to recruit you, and you did a sting on them and sent them to jail.
So it's the same thing here, which is the left cannot drop this meme. Trump goes to the intelligence to Langley and gives a speech in which he says he's going to be backing the agency. Well, I'm all for that after cleaning house.
And then CNN goes, and I saw the host, he's there insulting them. Who does he think he is, giving a speech there in the Hall of Heroes? He's the frickin' president. That's who he is. Look, I want to get more into the Russia thing, but what about claiming that he took the bust out? What about showing photos before the Secret Service fully opened the gates? I mean, what about just the conniption fit of deception after deception after deception? I mean, like you said, they don't seem to understand they were already rejected. So what happens, Roger, now? What do you see happening now that they've only gone more insane?
Well, Trump must clean house at the Central Intelligence Agency. Certainly replacing John Brennan with Richard Pompeo will be the improvement, but he must recognize that the second and third level there and others, there are rogue elements, perhaps controlling elements of that agency, starting with John Brennan. John Brennan predicted the Russian hacking before it happened. John Brennan continues to claim that this Russian hacking happened. It didn't. This is the same John Brennan who's a longtime member of the U.S. Communist Party, who was the station chief for the agency in Riddle.
Sure, he was definitely turned, but he was a communist when he was younger. Look at this. Reince Priebus, ex-CIA chief Brennan, bitter he wasn't retained by president. He's actually shocked that Trump removed him when just a week ago he said, you better watch your mouth, President-elect. Who the hell does this crazy jihadi think he is?
You're exactly right, but it's not just him.
I wonder if Brennan's going to be canoeing anytime soon or kayaking.
Well, look, I think Jeff Sessions should take a hard look at this guy's entire record. I do not think that he is loyal to the United States. I think he was flipped. I believe he...
And they're clearly so mentally ill that they don't think we don't see what they're doing. Let me ask you this. You talk about Potomac fever. I saw the arrogance of these people. Why are they so mentally ill?
Well, because they've been running things for 30 years. Everything has been done the neocon way. The Bush-Clinton-Bush-Obama combine has run the country into the ditch, but they are used to having their way. Now along comes this upstart, this reformer, Donald Trump, with his own ideas, and you can't bully him, and you can't buy him. See, the Saudis are very adept at buying people. They buy their way through Washington. All the special interests buy their way through Washington. And Trump just doesn't play that game. So there is a panic. Beyond that, there's a panic over what they see as his narrow-minded agenda.
Oh, yeah, they claim he's going to hurt, the whole world government, but they've been using our money to build the world government. It's what you make of coming in and delivering 75% cut in regulations.
Well, meanwhile, Trump is working the phones with some of these big companies like LBJ. He is wheedling and coddling and coaxing and talking and negotiating and pushing and probably threatening people in these big companies to stay in the United States.
Well, he threatened them on air. He said, you're not bringing your crap back in here if you leave.
It's called leadership. It's what we've lacked, leadership.
And by the way, the Heritage Foundation says, oh, it's the end of free market. No, we've been ganged up on by everybody else looking out for their interest for 50 years. That's coming to an end. It's only fair.
Trump is a free trader. We just don't have free trade. We have free trade and then a bunch of rules put on top of it. That means we really don't get access to their markets. He's going to fix that.
Well, the numbers are incredible. You look at China or Japan, they just don't let our cars in. And then we just open our market up to theirs to millions a year. It's over. And Japan says they're going to play ball. They understand that they've been stagnant for 20 years. It's time to stop this. It's time to turn it around. And Japan knows Americans need to be able to afford to buy their great cars. We'll be back with Roger Stone. History has happened. We'll look at his speech straight ahead.
Alex, I think that this is Trump sticking to his agenda. He's going to renegotiate these massive trade deals. The Mexicans and the Canadians have already indicated they're ready to enter those talks. This, again, is leadership.
Total delivery.
Well, and tying the hands of the president when it comes to sanctions before he's even had negotiations with the Russians as to peace in that region. Look, Hillary Clinton promised the neocons an expansion of the proxy war. They were prepared to do a no-fly zone. This is an open invitation for World War III.
And by the way, I want to say something to Ron Paul. I love Ron Paul. He's on Wednesday. He has an article out on Infowars.com. Trump's foreign policy and unwise inconsistency, you know, and he's basically saying we can't be for war to take out ISIS and al-Qaeda. That's the globalist proxy war meant to start war with Russia. We have to go clean it up or it'll start a war with Russia, Congressman. And I understand Paul, again, just sticks to it from an absolute blind point of view in that he does what he says he'll do. No war at any time. Well, this isn't war if it's cleaning up the neocons and the Democrats trying to start World War III. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, look, unfortunately, ISIS was formed, and it's a bipartisan mistake. We let ISIS rise because of the vacuum created by George W. Bush. Hillary and Obama encouraged ISIS, and Hillary armed ISIS. And they're now a fact of life. A better stewardship of our foreign policy in the region, there had been no ISIS. But that does not mean that you want to rush off to war with Russia over Syria. Assad, who runs the country now, is a bad guy, props up Hezbollah, propped up by the Russians. On the other side, you have ISIS propped up by the Saudis. This is not worth a drop of American blood or any borrowed millions for bombing. So this is what the deep state is upset about. Glenn Greenwald brilliantly had this, I think, exactly right last week. He's not a left wing. He's not a right winger. He's certainly not a Trump fan. But they are deeply disappointed that they're not going to call the shots.
Yeah, Greenwald is a leftist, but he's a real old-fashioned one. He has integrity. So when Trump's right on all these fronts, he has to admit it. Just like, to his credit, Bernie Sanders is having to come out and say, okay, Trump's actually doing a lot of good stuff, even from his agenda perspective. And Trump said, this isn't liberal or conservative agenda. This is Americana. This isn't about parties. This is about prosperity and common sense. He's turning out even better. I mean, he's getting even stronger now that he's in power.
You know, I do still think he has to be very careful of the Quislings. I mean, nobody opposed his election more than Google. They were mega donors to Hillary. They had a revolving door going with the Obama administration in which they were getting regulatory fixes that were good for Google but weren't good for consumers, weren't good for a free and open net. They were manipulating their data online and their searches to hate Hillary, and now suddenly they're trying to cozy up to Donald Trump. Now suddenly they're trying to insert some of their people into the White House to have sway over internet policy. So they have to be watched like a hawk. They're typical of the establishment types who called this election wrong, invested heavily in Hillary, and now they have to pass their special interest agenda.
Sure. Well, I already know that Trump's like Superman. I mean, this is just crazy. But how? I guess he's got the right advisors in there. I just don't know how he can negotiate each deal properly when it's so confusing, even though I've researched it deeply with all these big telecoms. He isn't taking money from Google to give them what they want, so he should really just get a panel of experts together and decide what keeps the web free and open and tell Google and Facebook and everybody, listen, You've already had a bunch of monopolistic practices. Okay, you keep doing that and not promoting Americana, we're going to break your back. We're going to break your arms. I mean, if they'll back off and just promote Americana and freedom, they can have their big, powerful organizations. But if they serve an agenda against America, they need to have their necks broken.
Well, and Donald Trump has obviously control of the AT&T Time Warner merger. He expressed concerns about this during the campaign. Time Warner, of course, owns CNN. CNN is the epitome, the ground zero in the fake news drive.
And let me ask you this. Why are they foaming at the mouth now, even 5 times worse than 2 months ago, like I said, quadrupling down again and again? I mean, I guess their bosses have just said, destroy Trump. It looks like the establishment is still intending to remove him. I mean, let me tell you, Madonna didn't get up there and say, blow up the White House in front of hundreds of thousands of women because she just thought it up. I mean, it looks like, this is what I want to strategize in the last few minutes with you is, clearly we're winning. Trump is amazing. Worldwide sovereignty exploding. He's not going to be perfect. He's going to make mistakes. But overall, I think he's overperforming what I expected right now. He is not disappointing me. He's promised everybody this, and he's not. He's delivering. But they are acting with body language like they are on a crazed counteroffensive. What are you concerned about? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, first of all, in all candor, Alex, I think celebrities like Madonna, like Ashley Judd, they're simply trying to recharge their fading celebrity by making outrageous statements and threats against the president. In the case of Madonna threatening to blow up the White House.
Well, I think Madonna should have her fat ass locked up because that wasn't free speech. That's a call to overthrow our country and plunge us into civil war and probably nuclear war.
It is an inappropriate call for violence. We both know she's not going to be prosecuted. Probably the record sales aren't going that well. She's looking a little long in the tooth, and she's trying to prop up her brand in a politically correct way. Ashley Judd claims that Trump has wet dreams over his own daughter. What kind of vile, nasty stuff
Oh,
is
let
that?
me add this. SNL says that Barron is going to be the first homeschool shooter. I mean, just absolutely amazing. Another one, Comedy Central, says that that Barron's a date rapist. I mean, these people are scum. Can you imagine if this was said about the first lady's kids when it was Obama?
Well, first of all, Barron is a minor, so he's off limits. Criticizing the massive theft of, say, Chelsea Clinton at the Clinton Foundation, she's a 35-year-old adult.
Exactly. Where are the basic rules? People think chivalry's wimpy. No, you don't want your family targeted. I leave people's families alone until they get political and they're adults. But this is unbelievable going after little kids. I mean, I'm getting tired of it.
Yeah, but it is part of the elitist derision. They are never going to accept Trump or the results of this election. There's a lot of bitterness there. But instead of engaging them, they're best to be ignored, frankly. You and I can engage them, but the president, should stay focused on his agenda.
Sure, but it does show what trash they are.
Well, but it doesn't matter how many people call him a racist if he revives our inner cities and proves he's not. If he gets affordable housing for poor people, which is one of the biggest problems in this country, and Trump is a builder and understands affordable housing and the housing issue like no one we've ever had as president. His father made his fortune building people after the war affordable housing. So if he just stays focused on the agenda.
So the answer is deliver prosperity so fast, it totally discredits him even more.
He's the ultimate free enterprise guy. He's the ultimate entrepreneur. He wants to make this country cook. He understands that if you revive the economy, if you unleash the free enterprise system, we can have money for all the other things we need to do.
And by the way, Roger, you and I talked about the fact that this could be bigger than 1776 if he delivers. That was the birth. We were about to die. If this all happens, it'll be bigger than 1776. He'll be bigger than George Washington. And I'm not just somebody that just says that. I'm telling you, they're going to be building Trump monuments on Mars in 100 years that are 5 times bigger than the Washington. I mean, I'm telling you, I can see the whole thing now. Let me ask you this, and then I got to go. I know there's a lot of real suppressed technologies. I don't mean the stuff that we hear about, you know, in the books and things that get written that are fiction. I mean, I know there's been a lot of real suppressed technologies. Things are doled out. They're selectively doled out. There's a lot of major treatments for cancer, other diseases, a lot of things that the elite plan to hoard. Trump signaled he's going to start flooding that out. getting drugs approved quicker, getting other things out, basically ending sickness, ending death, ending cancer like we ended, things like smallpox. This is such an exciting time, talking about space exploration, unlocking the secrets of the universe. I know for a fact that, they had laser weapons they were using in war in Vietnam. They used them heavily in Panama. That's just an example. I mean, everything's 30 years more advanced than they're telling us. They're only on governmental reservations and corporate reservations. I've had family that was privy to some of this. That's how I know. They didn't give me the classified info. They just said you wouldn't believe it. So the fact that Trump, with American dominance, is getting ready to deploy stuff bigger than the internet for the economy, but also for life, how soon do we start seeing that?
Well, look, nothing big happens quickly, but you have somebody who believes in American exceptionalism who's going to do a technological review and see how we can unleash the ingenuity and the creativity and the technological ability of the American free enterprise system. This is a guy who says he's going to appoint Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to join a task force to examine vaccinations. Let's get to the bottom of CDC and that issue. He's interested in facts, Alex. He's a pragmatist interested in getting things done. At the same time, he has 2 or 3, bedrock American principles he's not going to violate. America first. He made that clear. Every trade deal, every new law, every new regulation, does it put the people's interests first? That alone will be refreshing. He's not afraid to say that we have a divine creator. He's not afraid to bring back references to God and to Christmas.
Well, he understands that also, again, breaks the back of political correctness, but it also really does invoke the fact that the state isn't God. There's a God above that. That moves us up above the state. It's really amazing. Other tidbits, and I'm going to let you go, Roger. The book now available, pre-order. When does it specifically come out? Again, The Making of a President 2016.
The Making of the President 2016, how Donald Trump orchestrated an American revolution, will be in bookstores and will be shipped on January 31st. You can get a very good price at it on the InfoWars store. It's also available, at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and so on.
And at StoneColdTruth.com.
StoneColdTruth.com.
All right. Now listen, I want to celebrate. I want to be positive, okay? But at the same time, I want to have the win long term in the continuum. Again, real quick, how do you expect them to strike back? I mean, as I said earlier, they're spoiling. The billionaires are intensifying funding to stop Trump, not backing off. I don't think they get that their money wasn't worth anything. People are onto them, and that no amount of BS is going to put their New World Order back together again.
In all honesty, Alex, you have to read this book to understand what's going on right now. And for anybody who buys the book through Infowars.com at the store, I will supply you at my own expense a book plate with a personal inscription that you can attach to your book. So, but to understand the struggle with the globalists, to understand how the mainstream media has lost their monopoly and how this entire political communication system has tipped to the alternative media like Infowars, this is detailed in the book. You made a very important point at the beginning that I have to come back to. People do not understand how to gauge how big this revolutionary army is. If you look at the people who are watching Alex Jones and Infowars and so many of your fine correspondents on the net, plus Facebook Live, plus YouTube Live, plus podcast, plus radio, you're dwarfing Sean Hannity. Nothing against Sean Hannity.
Skip this break. It's too important.
Dwarfing them in reaching the Trump foot soldier.
And again, we saw it, and I'm not bragging. And one thing that the Chicago Tribune got right with, as other celebrities, stay away from Trump. Alex Jones is there. Another peer pressure move, like I'm a loser, I'm not cool. Yeah, just the most revolutionary president since George Washington. Total change, I'm there. They admit in the article, trying to make me look bad, but they go, every other person was a huge fan. Every other person wanted to meet this big egomaniac. I'm sitting there quietly watching the speech, being mobbed. You were getting mobbed so bad I had to leave the area you were in right below the president. I almost had to go because it was becoming a disturbance. Everyone wanting selfies. People all saw the live streams. It wasn't just Trump supporters. It was like black cops, female cops, white cops. It was people stopping taxis, people from India. It was all over the place. It was at the restaurant I was eating at. They were bringing me free food, free drinks. I mean, it was just absolutely insane for me to see how big it is. I mean, it's already, I can't walk down the street in Austin, every fifth person's a listener. It was half, and the Chicago Tribune, I think you guys can Google the article. I think it was titled, the article was titled, you know, as celebrities, you know, shun Trump, Alex Jones is there. Or just type in Alex Jones, click news, and then type in Chicago Tribune. But what I'm saying is they had to admit every other, there it is, celeb steer clear of President Trump, not Alex Jones. And then they make some joke out of it, like we're, again, they play like sophomoric games. It's like fighting them is like I'm back in third grade or something. It's so mentally ill. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Alex, I just don't think they fully understand the reach. Because they're the old media, the networks, the cable networks, they're losing their monopoly and they resent what you are doing, number one. Number two, they want to talk about, you know, Sandy Hook and 9/11 and extraneous matters. Those are important issues. You have your views. Trump is about sealing our borders, revitalizing our economy, peace with the Russians, getting us an immigration system that works.
Well, he said it. He said we've been negotiating deals and selling off America for an elite. That's what globalism is. It's over. It's about oppressing people worldwide. It's a new colonialism against the West and everybody else. It's over. But I mean, getting back to this then, I agree with you. What happens to MSM now as they prepare to sell off CNN? The word is MSNBC is going to be basically sold off and lay off half its people. So they're kind of shutting down, but the foundation, Soros isn't giving up. So what is that dichotomy? What is that going to be like?
Alex, who knows? Maybe RT will buy CNN, spin it off, and fire Jeff Zucker. Anything is possible. But you're going to have these kind of personal attacks. They distort your views on other subjects. They call me a racist and a misogynist and a bigot. I was out marching against the racist Rockefeller drug reform laws. I was supporting Richard Nixon.
No, I know you were. I know it was the Republicans and that ended slavery, and they were the.
I resent this nonsense that I'm a racist because I once called Roland Martin stupid. I'm sorry, he is.
But I mean, here's the deal: they know you're not. They just use it like it's a magic word.
Yeah, it's a bogus, false attack.
Quite frankly, I want to make everybody so successful and so wealthy and so into Americana that I don't care what color somebody is, they marry my daughters as long as they're a patriot. The problem is I can't probably find anybody that's a patriot. The globalists keep winning with young people. And the good news is I saw massive numbers of young people that were there and were awake of every race, color, and creed. It was very, very exciting.
Yeah, no, I think this is where you really can take solace. And that is the people who, you know, came to me and wanting selfies and who wanted autographs or who wanted me to shake hands with them or sign their books or sign their programs. They're all young people. They're the future generation of revolutionaries, and they get it. You know, I'm reminded something that President Nixon once said to me, Alex. We were going through an airport. We were late for a flight, and a woman popped up and said, "Oh, Mr. President, can I get your autograph?" Despite the fact that we were late to the gate, Nixon signed her autograph with a flourish and asked her where she was from. And after we got out of earshot, he said to me, "Never refuse a request for an autograph, or they'll think you're a real asshole." So it was an exciting time, and it was great to be with so many like-minded patriots, people who see the big picture and understand that we're not interested in, in aggrandizing ourselves. We're interested in a revolution.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing the Russians have gotten is they're like, this new group of Americans just want ideology of freedom and just want prosperity and to work with everyone. And people say, well, doesn't Russia know if Trump's built the military? You know, he might still. Russia is so hungry for the chance to actually work with the United States. And we've got so many real enemies. Don't worry, there's going to be plenty of bombs to drop on the jihadis. And again, Ron Paul, who I love to death, the globalists helped create them. They're taking over the world. We have to defeat them or the war will go on forever. We have to destroy ISIS. We have to get Saudi Arabia back in its rat hole. It's the Saudi leadership. Clearly, there is an alliance with the New World Order and the Islamicists that has got to be defeated. So I'm going to tell Ron Paul that on Wednesday and bring up, sir, listen, I understand you're against war. I support you. But Saudi Arabia and the globalists carried out 9/11 so they could take out Iraq and all these countries. They're the real enemy.
Look, Donald Trump understands that when we took our ill-advised actions in Libya, we had to go borrow as a country $1 billion to pay for the bombs for an aggressive war. Now we can keep borrowing money to pay for bombs and missiles and guns and weapons, or we can use that money to rebuild our military strength, at the same time finding a way to rebuild our infrastructure.
That's right. They were running our military in the ground. I know you got to go. Thank you, Roger. We'll talk to you soon.
Great to be here with you, Alex. Many thanks.